and then live it's connecting right now. We should be connecting in just a minute. And then so also when we're talking, if you guys see me looking here, I'm just like responding to comments or something over here.
We know.
Okay. Okay, so the bar's almost there. It sometimes lags a little bit.
We sound okay?
Yeah, I thought I was hearing an echo. Do you hear an echo?
Say something?
Hello, everyone. No, I think we're good.
All right.
Okay, we are connected on Facebook now, so we are live on the Voice of Strength page. We already have a few people getting on, so hello to those that are joining. We are going to give this a couple minutes to let people get on, and please share this for us. I'm going to share this to my personal page, and I ask you guys to do the same. And I'm going to send you ladies the link right now. We have the family of Anthony Vargas with us today.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so to the link in Facebook Messenger of the live, so you guys can share it as well. Hello, everybody. Again, we have 10 people on now. So we usually get families, we get people that are just interested in hearing about the stories, the real stories that have not been impacted, and supporters. And once again, we're going to get started in just another minute. We'll start right at 5:05.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Okay, so yeah, again, if you guys are in any groups pertaining to the subject, if you guys have friends who may be impacted as well, new families, we need new impacted families to see these videos, please invite them in. And also for impacted families watching, if you guys have not shared your story with us yet, then we encourage you to reach out. And especially those families that have never really had a chance to speak. We'll talk to you before, make you feel comfortable, and just give you a platform so that you can share. Yeah. So I want to really thank you ladies for being here. Valerie and Stephanie, these are the aunts of Anthony Vargas, and you ladies have been doing so much out there, and it's been crazy to see, but you guys have been doing a lot of good work. I see you guys supporting the families. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick, and then we'll start.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie, and I'm the aunt of Anthony Vargas.
Hi everyone, I'm Valerie. I'm the auntie of Anthony Vargas, and I'm her sister.
Thank you. So I'm going to introduce the show for anybody who may have not seen these before. These are the stories, the true stories behind those killed by police. And we hear the stories directly from the impacted. Some people, we say impacted families, we say justice families. And what I come to find is we're just regular families, and we got hit with this horrible tragedy. Yeah, so Voices of Strength, we are on episode 21. Anthony, he was just 21. Voice of Strength, we have been going each week sharing a different victim. We're highlighting their lives. We're highlighting a different victim, their lives, and we're sharing about their deaths and letting their families talk. That's something that doesn't get to happen a lot when people are killed by police. People don't get the true stories. And they just get the police narrative, and that often sticks. My name is Marissa Barrera, and I started this. My brother was killed in 2017. I've been here since, just doing different things within the movement. I've done a lot of different things like protests, different kind of actions, different kind of work on different legislative things, and nothing's changed. People are being just coming. And so that's why I'm here today. My brother's name is Michael Barrera, and he's the reason I'm here and why I started this, but there's a bigger reason behind every name. There's an individual with a family and everybody that love them. So that's what this strength is about. And we get to talk about Anthony today. And I have been following Anthony's story pretty much since it happened. As you ladies know now, when we start, everything's moving fast, but you soon realize, hey, this is fucking crazy. This is bad. It's really bad. So I find myself saying this almost every show. I can't exactly recall when we crossed paths, but I just know somewhere along the line we did. And I've got to see a lot of your guys' work. So just everything you've been through too along the way. So I want to talk about Anthony. And he was so young, he was young. That was your nephew. And it just makes me think when I talk to families like you, I see everybody's perspective. I think about my nephews, and then I think about our family. I feel you guys so much. So we want to hear about him. And also real quick, for anybody watching, we do get back to comments. Sometimes we can't read them all throughout the show, but we encourage you, if something, if a question comes up, a comment comes up, anything, write it in there. Myself and the ladies also will look later at the comments and get back to you guys. So thank you for the support. If there are other impacted families, feel free to share your loved one's name down there, where you guys are from. This is about all of our loved ones and getting our stories as well, because we've been through a lot as well through this. So let's talk about Anthony and just share about who he was to us.
Anthony, I can just explain him as being just, like a little brother. He was always like a real active kid, and we were really close in age. He was a few years younger than me, so we all grew up together, and I would just describe him as like someone that loved life, like he enjoyed fishing. I mean, he was, a really good barbecuer. He loved hanging out with the family, playing, a rock band. He bought a rock band set. He actually got me one for Christmas one year. It was a limited edition Beatles set. And let me tell you, that boy did not let me touch the guitar. Yeah. But, he was definitely someone that would, give you the t-shirt off his back if, you needed it. He was just a really kind soul. He was a really kind and old soul.
Yeah, he he was also a twin. I don't think we talked a lot about it, but Anthony was a twin. He was also he was raised like our little brother. I really didn't see him as my nephew. He grew up like as our little brother. He has a lot of brothers and sisters, and he has a lot of cousins. And like we all grew up in the same household. Like we all live within. A lot of us live within the same like area. So we were never like, there was never a day that went by where like we weren't there. But he was into music. Music was like his second religion. You would always find him with like headphones. His music taste went from like oldies to like hip hop to like, I think I introduced him to like some like punk, and he was into like Black Sabbath a lot. He was really diverse. He was a really diverse kid. He was really open-minded.
Thank you ladies for sharing that. And that, you know, that's not a regular type of like uncle, I mean, aunt and nephew. If you guys live so close in that, typically people think about you guys are separated, you know, living separate and stuff. So it kind of, it's a little different. And then the twin, I read that. And when I was just, every time, I always am familiar with people's stories when they come on here, but I always try to, right before we go on, I want to read everything I can just before we go on. And as we're getting closer. So I caught that detail and I thought to myself, I didn't know that before, that he was a
Yeah, he has a twin brother. And it's been really difficult, you know, for his twin, especially because, you know, they had a really strong connection. And, you know, like even birthdays now, like nothing's the same, you know, because we're trying to celebrate my nephew Dre's birthday, like we're celebrating Anthony's anniversary at the same time. So, you know, like it's extremely difficult for us, and I can only imagine how much more difficult it is for him having, you know, like a missing part of him now.
Yeah. 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 Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's something I came across a few times, actually more than a handful of times with some of the victims. There are a lot of victims that are twins. I've thought about that before. That's even deeper, you know, that's your twin. I've talked to some of the twins too. So sorry to hear that. That's just, these are the extra details and things that people don't hear, you know, typically behind people that were killed by police, that they need to know and be reminded. I just want to say once again, hello to the people watching out there. We got people on and a lot of people sharing hellos and things like that to you guys, to all of us actually, from all over too. So thank you guys for being on. So he had just turned 21. I know, just it was just a couple weeks before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he must have been excited about turning 21. Just he's turning into an adult and everything.
Yeah, he was you know, he was barely starting to live his life. Anthony was always very sheltered. He didn't go out much, you know, he was a big homebody. And when he kind of started getting older, maybe like between 20 and when he had just turned 21, he had barely started, you know, doing things on his own. He would start, you know, he started going to the beach by himself fishing, and he started doing a lot of stuff without the family. And, you know, we seen him, you know, kind of growing up, even though he was already that age, like we seen him barely starting to, you know, venture out and just starting to explore life and like the possibilities that were out there for him.
Yeah, he was I think he was barely like becoming his own man at that time. He was barely like figuring out his independence. You know, he was really he liked to be home a lot. He's a grandma's boy.
I was asked about grandma. I know you guys have shared that he was really close and the one to help grandma, right? The grandchild that was very helpful.
Yeah, that was Anthony. He was I mean, I don't want the other kids to hear, but he was my grandma's favorite. Yeah, he was always protective of her. But when he had like towards the last year of his life, you know, he had barely started to venture into like his adulthood, you know, like he was into deep sea, like he always wanted to go deep sea fishing. I think he was trying to prepare himself to like get that further into the lake. I think maybe he went once or twice.
Yeah, he went
right?
once.
Yeah, but he would hop on the metro and he would take these buckets of like fishing poles with him on the metro, and he would be gone for hours, you know, and he would just be at the lake and he'd come back with these buckets of like fish, and it was just a bad smell and just bad news, but he was so happy to like come back with his catch, you know. He always wanted to travel, and like it seemed like he was barely starting to spread his wings out, you know, and he was starting to see that the world was so much bigger than just living in East L.A.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing all of that stuff about him. And it really matters that people hear about the things, even just your grandma and how he was he was helpful, and getting older. I think everybody can relate to a young man getting his independence, just getting a little older in life and exploring. And like you said, he was very sheltered and stuff. So I'm sure the way things happened, it was just more than a shock. I know to you guys, for him to be one that was targeted that way. Let's go ahead and how he was walking. Okay, let's go ahead and get started about what happened. I want you guys to share where you guys were when it happened, and then what you guys first heard. And then we're gonna get into also after that, we'll get into like what really happened and how you guys have came to find these to be the facts of it rather than the start. So whoever would like.
Yeah, the night that everything had happened, we were home. You know, I was here in the house with my mom and the kids, and I remember getting, it was a weird phone call, you know, in the middle of the morning, and you know, those phone calls are never good when you get them, you know, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, when the phone had rang, it had woke us up, and my mom had came in the room and she was like hysterical. And at the time, Anthony's twin brother was actually spending the night with us. And I just remember Anthony's twin getting up and asking my mom, like, what's going on? And my mom had told her, like, oh, someone just called Lisa, Anthony's mom, and had told her that there was a shooting in the Nueva Maravilla housing and that Anthony was not accounted for. So, you know, at the time, like, I didn't process that there was a possibility that, you know, my nephew was shot, or, you know, I hadn't made that connection at the time. I just thought, you know, hey, maybe he's late, or you don't put two and two together, you know. And I just remember, like, we have a lot of kids, and the kids they're really small, all of Anthony's cousins. So I remember telling my mom and Anthony's twin, like, go ahead and go, you know, Lisa was already here at that point, and I told them, like, just get in the car and go ahead and go, like, don't worry about the kids, I'll stay home with all the kids. So, like, when they arrived at the Nueva Maravilla, like, I wasn't there, I was home, just kind of, I don't want to say waiting on the news, but just waiting on information, you know, about what happened with Anthony.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird. Even the night before, um, he was talking to my grandma, and you know, he had told her he loved her. And I don't know. When I had found out, I was on my way to work in downtown LA because I was a vendor at a food market, and I had like some missed calls from my older sister, and I remember I was driving to work, and I answered the phone, and I was driving, and I hear her saying, like, you know, Val, did as Anthony called you, and it was that tone, it was that tone of voice that you know, you just know it's just concerning. And I go, no, why? And she stood quiet for a while, like there was a pause in her voice, and I go, you know, like, what's going on? What happened? And the exit that was coming up was actually my mom's exit. So I remember like switching lanes, and she goes, there was a shooting in the projects last night, and we can't get a hold of Anthony. And I go, oh, well, just call him again. You know, he's probably like, I don't know, like at a friend's house or something. It didn't register. It didn't register what she was trying to tell me. And I was more focused on her voice, and like, what's wrong with her? It's like she was speaking words, but I wasn't hearing it. And she goes, there was a shooting, and you know, we think it's Anthony. And I just I think I ran like a few red lights trying to get to the Nueva Maravilla projects. And when I had rolled up, I had seen like some news vans there, and I just I don't think it's still registered. I was still waiting to like see what, like, it just didn't register. I just remember pulling up, and I remember calling my sister, and my sister was like, you know, we're down here in the corner, and I could see my mom and my sisters and Anthony's twin standing in the corner, and I could see my older sister Lisa looking distraught, and I knew, you know, and the whole time, like the whole drive there, like I just remember trying to get a hold of Anthony. I was leaving him messages like, you know, like we don't have his phone right now, but I know that when we do get his phone, like I know we're gonna hear those messages. And like I left so many messages. I went from asking him, I went from telling him, Anthony, grandma's gonna kick your ass. Pick up your phone. Pick up your phone. And it went from like that kind of conversation to like, hey dude, like call me back if you need a ride, call me back. And then it went to like, if you're in trouble, just give me a call, roll up, I'll open the door. And then it just went to like, dude, like don't, you better fucking pick up the phone. I better not get a fucking phone call that you're not here. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. You know, like for people watching, this is fucking real. This is the raw, like parts of this. This is like how we find out. And a lot of families will be able to relate to similar things you ladies shared today. Even the calls, how you change from, okay, hey, you know, where are you at, to joking, like, hey, this is serious. And then you realize, and it's still like hearing you, I relate to it. I hear you. I feel like I can see you're like I can literally feel you. And not just from knowing mine, but just I can see as you explain it so well that I can feel you. And when you find out then that they were murdered, it's like, what the fuck? But then when you find out they were really murdered by the police, it's really like, what the fuck? Can you guys tell me, like, when you found out that those moments, and let's talk about that. And I think these people, like a lot of people still aren't hearing the families, you know, a lot of people around the country right now, it's a hot topic and people are still not hearing the families. But I believe one day people are going to listen, maybe not right now, they're not, but things like this, we're sharing live and a real testimony. That's why I feel like this is important for us to come on these shows every week, because all of our stories are so fucking similar. Each family, each different states, cities, lots in California though, lots in LA. We already know that. But I thank you guys, I thank you ladies for sharing these tough and being open with everyone else. Yeah, but if you guys can, you know, you found out by police, what was nice, and what was just going on.
Yeah, I don't know, like I hear everything you're saying. You know, I think a lot of people that haven't gone through, you know, what we have, like it's hard for them to like really engage with it, because like at the end of the day, they're not the ones that wake up in the morning without their loved one. They're not the ones that, you know, have to explain to their kids that not only were their loved ones murdered, but like they were taken by the police. And like having you open this space to like all the families to give testimony, like I feel like if it forces people to listen and it forces them to really like see the reality of like what we're going through, and it's like it's raw, you know. Like when I found out that, you know, like it's different when you hear that someone was killed than when you hear that they were killed by law enforcement. And like I couldn't process that myself, so I wasn't sure how to even process that into telling like the kids, you know what I mean? So that was something that I genuinely kind of steered away from in the beginning. And you know, we kind of broke it to them in a sense of like, I don't even know, like Anthony, he was killed, you know. And you try to say that as sensitive as you can without like telling them at the same time that like he was killed by law enforcement. So like that was really, it was really difficult, you know. It was really difficult. I even now, like I'm not sure that I've genuinely like processed it.
Yeah. Same. You know, when I had arrived at the scene, mind you, like the last person I talked to was my sister, aside from Anthony's voicemails. When I had arrived to the scene, I went with thinking like that it's a possibility that Anthony got shot. It wasn't told and it wasn't said like by the sheriffs or by the deputies. I just knew that I think we all pretty much thought that Anthony got shot. Or he might have gotten shot. And it wasn't until a few hours later where like my sister had told me what, you know, he got shot by deputies. And from that fucking moment, I just knew that I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like I felt like I felt like Val lifted out of my her body and was just thrown to the side, and it's just I'm like a whole new fucking person. Because the things that I was looking at when I arrived on the scene and when I seen these deputies there, you know, it's just the behavior just didn't I don't think it registered. Like I was looking at it and I was looking at Anthony, and then I was hearing these newscasters in the back, or someone who was there who was doing like a news thing, and I heard the words like officer involved shooting, and it just that's how I found out. You know?
So you actually walked up right on Val. Gosh, I'm sorry. You know, every family has a different experience, and some of us, I wasn't there, but some of the families were. Some of them pulled up on after, some never got to, you know, even see the scene. How did they do? Like, how did the law enforcement, what were they acting towards the family at that time?
At the time, so like when Stephanie got the phone call, it was about 12, maybe 12:30, and you know, this is from people looking for Anthony, because you know let me go back. We were raised in the Maravilla project, so we have like family and friends there still. So when they heard shots in the neighborhood, in the area, everyone just calls each other to make sure that everyone made it home. And so the shooting had happened around 12, maybe like she got the phone call about 12 or 1. And when I got there, it was at 7. So like they were already roping things off. They were already putting the crime scene tape on. And I just remember like we kept moving closer and closer and closer and closer to like where Anthony was. And just the behavior of the officers, like it was just fucking disgusting. Like they were laughing, they were talking about like getting days off, they were laughing at us, they were telling us to move the fuck back if we don't want to get arrested. They made some like really like messed up remarks to Anthony's twin, because you know Anthony's twin, like they weren't holding back. And we were trying to see if it was Anthony, because we didn't know it was Anthony. We just heard about an officer involved shooting. We didn't know who it was. We just knew that it was somebody's kid down there at the end of the hill. And it was somebody's kid at the end of the hill that we might know. So we were trying to like see who it was so that we could be there for like another family that we might have known that we grew up with. But we were just trying to see if it was Anthony. We were trying to identify him. And Anthony was there for about 14 hours.
My goodness.
And this was in the summer of 2018. I remember it was like the hottest summer of it was just fucking hot. I think it was like almost 100 degrees. And someone had took a photo of Anthony, who was in another house, and that's how we were able to, or they took a side shot of somebody on the floor, and we knew it was Anthony by a curl.
Wow.
That's how we found out. That's how we knew it was Anthony, and things just started changing. I knew from then on that, like, I you know, I didn't know what to do. I never it just it changed me. I mean, it changes all of us, right? Like, we're never the same person after this. I felt myself leave my body, and I just knew that it's going to be a long fight.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're coming up on 3 years?
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm so sorry. And those details, leaving the bodies out there for so long, it's not uncommon. And how they treat people right after, it's not uncommon. It seems like across the board.
Yeah, we were trying to get information from the detectives that were there, and they would just tell us, like, stand behind the rope. The family has been contacted already. This isn't your loved one. Go home. You don't need to be here. If you don't want to get arrested, just leave. And this was before we were able to see if it was Anthony. So I remember my sister saying, like, no, because if we're not here, then it's somebody's son down there. Like, they're not going to be left alone. And I just remember a bunch of deputies being around, they didn't even cover him at this time. And it was already like 1:00 in the afternoon. And this happened at like 12 at midnight. Anthony just stood there uncovered all night, all morning in the blistering sun, with like a bunch of deputies around him. And if I could go back then, like, I'm telling you, I would have, like, been able to, like, record it in my mind a lot better, because I was trying not to look, with the possibility that I would see my nephew on the floor. But yeah, they treated us like criminals. Like, I knew that something something wasn't right. Aside from them shooting my nephew, just the whole scene, the way it was, the way the deputies had acted, it wasn't. I didn't know what I was facing down the line, which is now. But looking back at it then, like, it all makes sense, because nothing hasn't changed. I can't hear you, Marissa.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought it was us. I was like,
No, it was me when my kid was screaming a minute ago. So I didn't want everybody to hear that. But no, what I was saying is, thank you for sharing. And a lot of families, and not just families, but different victims of brutality, or just different people who have been wronged, by the system in different ways, are relating to what you're saying. And it's just common. Again, it goes back to our stories all go back to the similar thing. And it's across the board that they always ask foul. I don't know how else to explain it. Foul, dirty, scandalous. And the feeling you said you got, and you realize, you kind of realize, I felt that too. There's that moment when you realize, like, hey, like, it's the enemy now, basically. We're not on the same team. We're in a fight. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. And yeah, again, just a lot of people leaving comments in here for you guys. We might get to some of the questions at the end, but for now, I just want to keep sharing your guys' experiences right now. So after that, how soon did you guys, when you guys found out it was him, what was next? And then I want to know how soon you guys also started experiencing like harassment and what you guys have experienced so far.
So that night, it wasn't even a night. It just seemed like
A long
a
day.
long fucking 72 hours. I don't even remember sleeping. I just remember just the day being continuous. The next few days were just continuous. I felt like a hamster in a wheel. And I remember coming back to my mom's house, and I remember talking to the kids and talking to my sister, and we were just having like like what the fuck happened. And that next day, after the next day, we had the lieutenant from the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Department come down, and he walks into our driveway, and we're outside, and we're like in a circle, and we're just like, what
just happened?
like what's next? And I remember getting hostile, and I seen him walking down with like this tray of like food, and I remember my brother looking at him like, what are you doing here? What the fuck? My brother said something, and the lieutenant from the sheriff's department brings us like a plate of like chicken and like some like with like fucking bread. And I just remember my sister grabbing it and throwing it in the trash can, saying like, get the fuck off of our property. And it's just the birth of like our fight. It just solidified itself. Aside from being there and seeing Anthony in that blistering sun, like we knew that from that day on, it's just our lives were going to be different. I remember I started looking up things on my phone, like the sheriff's department, and that's when my newsfeed started changing, and I came across, actually it was you, Marissa. I came across your name, and I remember like seeing some of your posts and hearing some of the things that you were writing and saying, and I was like, fuck, like it just, I just like felt like, all right, like we're not, I mean, I knew that we weren't the only ones, but I felt like, all right, like there's a whole new fucking like, there's a whole new family out here that I think that it's gonna become my family sense, because the things that I was reading from other families, like local families, and at that time, I think Jesse Romero's case was going on, and I was seeing it on my newsfeed, but it just wasn't something that I was reading at the time, because it wasn't in my, like, I guess I wasn't like impacted. That makes sense. And I just remember after that, like, I think I reached out to you, and I reached out to Jason Reyes, and there was just no looking back. I didn't feel so lost anymore. I started looking at the things that other people were posting, and it started making sense. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I really don't think that I fully mourned, because I just been fucking angry. And I don't want to be stuck in losing Anthony, because I feel like the minute I realize that Anthony's really, really gone, it's gonna swallow me whole. So I'm being fed on like trying to achieve some kind of like, and I it's really hard for me to say justice, because I'm understanding how the system works now. But I might have rambled there, sorry.
Good. I really like what you shared. Like, thank you. Like, this is what these conversations are about. Sometimes things come up that how you met me and came across Jason. I know he's out there, pushing for families. And that's kind of like for me, it's I hit that time too. You shared when that hit you, like, hey, there's this whole different world, this whole different family. This is real life. There's all these people who have lost a loved one, just like how your family has, and not just lost a loved one that way, but all of that shit that you guys have been sharing that we all know very well that comes along with it. So it's like nobody else understands. Nobody can ever understand, and we don't want them to completely understand. Not to the point of like, okay, you have to go through it to understand. That's why we share. And I'm glad that I could have came up my post because just every day that we're here, we wake up, it's still in the fight. Our thoughts are back to what probably we went to sleep thinking about. And I'm glad that you came across my stuff that could have been helpful to you at a point, like, hey, to realize that. And I'm glad you reached out to me. That's why sometimes I tell the families, like, I'm sorry, but I don't even remember exactly when, like, we connected, and I'm glad. I know it was over a message or a comment, and that's one thing. All these families, that's how we seem to meet, because I know we didn't get that much support. So I've always been online. That's how I've been putting myself, my brother's case, and meeting other people out there through online. So it's been a way for us families to connect, since I know you guys have a lot out there. There are so many, but just, all the families impacted, we're so spread out across the country. Now I rambled on, but thank you for
You're
sharing.
fine. You're good, Marissa.
Yeah, no. And I don't know, people watching that aren't impacted, I thank you guys for watching too and taking the time to listen to our stories. And I know some supporters listen to them every week and have been supportive, and we need more people like that, more people helping share our stories and doing work with the families, and not so much just following other, so okay, let's and touch back on, like, how dare they try to bring your guys' family food like that? Like, what in the fuck? That is crazy. I have never heard of that one before. Never. Yeah, but there have definitely been other strange attempts of weird stuff like that brought up. So after you start realizing how bad this is, how connecting with other impacted families, when do you guys start getting like the information of like more information about exactly what happened? I know that the shots have came out. I know that you guys have know where the bullet holes hit, all that information. How long did that stuff take to come out? Because that matters, saying, hey, you really shot this kid in the back. Like, why did you guys do this? Why did you guys shoot him so many times?
Yeah, we didn't actually find out how many times my nephew was shot directly from like the coroner or from the autopsy report. We actually found out from the mortuary that was going to be handling my nephew's services. Anthony typically always walked around in, basketball shorts and kind of short sleeve shirts with sandals. He was a chancla boy. And the day of his, when we were getting closer to having his services, they had called us and they had told us that we had to take him in a long sleeve t-shirt and a hat. And at the time we didn't understand why, because we had already taken Anthony's clothing into, what he was comfortable wearing. We had already taken that in. So when my sister went in there with the long sleeve shirt and the hat, which, just completely bothered us because Anthony never wore a hat and he hated long sleeve shirts. They had actually informed Lisa that Anthony had bullet grazes and bullet wounds on his forearms, and that he had a entry and exit wound on the back of his ear. So we needed to put him a hat to cover that for the viewing. So we didn't find out from the sheriff's department, you know, how my nephew was killed. We didn't find out from them how many times he was shot. We found out from the mortuary that, you know, his body was destroyed.
Yeah. To add to that, like when we had the services, you know, we went with the intentions of being able to see Anthony for, you know, I don't want to say the last time. We were gonna have an open casket, and I remember when they told us how many times he was shot, like, you know, or how many times like they thought they shot him, because when they were preparing Anthony, I don't think we understood what it meant. And I say that because the day of the services, I remember going up to Anthony's casket, and you know, I wrote him. So I wrote him a letter, and I tried stuffing it in his casket, and I remember touching his stomach, and you know, there was no stomach to touch because it was just a bag of air.
Oh my God.
He was shot, you know, he was shot 13 times, and you know, we know that now, but I didn't know that at the time. And I just remember trying to put this letter that I wrote him, and you know, in the side of him, and I touched his stomach, and it was just a bag of air. And I remember just standing back aghast, like it became real again. You know, the damage that these officers had done, and the damage that these officers has done while, you know, trying to fucking detain him. And I just remember seeing his color, and, you know, Anthony, if I had known that Anthony was going to look like that, I would have had a fucking talk with the family and said, we have to have a closed casket. And then it brought me back to this time when I had went to the scene, and I think I went into like survival mode, because all I kept thinking about was, when I was looking at Anthony at the bottom of the hill, was like, we're already 14 hours in, and it's fucking hot, and, you know, like, it's hot, and I just remember thinking, like, I don't see how we just should have had a closed casket, you know, because the effects of him being out in the hot sun were visible during his services. You know, it wasn't my nephew. It just didn't look like my nephew.
Gosh, I'm sorry. It's so disgusting. It's so awful and horrible how it goes beyond even the police and all these people that helped them get to that spot. And I'm glad that the place that you guys brought him to was honest with you guys, was honest.
Yeah, and the reason why I think they were is because a few months before that, Anthony had actually went with us to that same mortuary when my grandmother passed away to plan her services. And when we were preparing Anthony's, the woman immediately recognized us, and she's like, what are you guys doing here? And we explained to her, and she was in complete disbelief. And I think that was part of the reason why, you know, she gave us the information that she did.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't think she recognized him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he was really bad, you know, and it's just like the negligence of the county for allowing his body to be out there for over 14 hours. Like, that's negligence on someone's part. You know, like, it's negligence on someone's part. Thinking about it now, like, I feel like if they did it on purpose because they wanted us to have a closed casket, you know, like, I feel like they wanted my nephew to be completely unrecognizable. Like, it's just a lot of stuff now, like, it runs through your head, and you wonder, like, if stuff was done strategically and on purpose by them, just because, like, now we know, like, how they really work.
Yeah. I absolutely understand. And it seems like their moves are all like very malicious and strategic. You know, it's very well planned out. And a lot of mothers, that's a lot of people. It's not everybody's story, but like with my brothers, they wanted to get him out of there quick. They wanted to hide, you know, no eyes. But a lot of these families say hours, you know, like you guys, that is awful. Like, what is, why? And then, like you guys said, so all these people that allowed it, who allowed it? So I think I made a post the other day on, it's like a whole community of people. It's literally a whole community of people that are helping the murder, the get away with it by covering it up and lying from the media. Just so many and components and so many people, so many guilty freaking people out there that are criminals that are out there working under the taxpayers' dime and do very bad stuff, very horrible stuff to so many families. And it's just awful hearing like the details of your family, what you guys have experienced. It's awful. But again, I'm glad that you guys were at a place that they were honest. I know a lot of people, like in those situations, either they get threatened or they are buddies with officials or the police, or they believe the narrative, so they just go along with it. But so what happened next after that? So then I'm so sorry that detail too. I've heard different stories like that, so many. And I know each of us, like Val, the one you just shared, we all have our different lots of things like that. And I know it's fucking traumatic. I know, like, sometimes you know, we can't get things out of our head. And I know a lot of families, we suffer from shit like this, and it's very taxing on us. So all the families are listening, and I just see a lot of things, a lot of them relating. So thank you for sharing these details that are just, they're hard, and we shouldn't even have ever experienced. So what happened next, ladies? Just can't believe you guys had to do this. Just do this whole thing. This whole thing it's feels unreal, even hearing the details from you guys. Like, it's not okay. But share, what were your family's like next moves after, okay, like he really, after all of that was released and not by officials?
Yeah, I think after the services, I just made the decision that like my life isn't gonna be my life anymore. You know, like I'm just so fucking fueled on anger, and you know, every time every time, even when I pass the church that we had his services in, which happened to be the church that he was attending, I just keep seeing his face in that casket, and that's enough anger, and that's just enough for me to just keep moving towards like fighting. And I just knew that I can't fucking shut my mouth. I have to keep talking about like what had happened. And it just seemed like the more that we would speak, even saying justice for Anthony, or you know, even going to the station and saying his name down there, and that's when the deputies were starting to like really pass by the house. And mind you, if I had known these things like back then when it had first started, I would have, like, I feel like things would have
Yeah, I think like from that moment that we realized like the severity of like what had happened, and like how Anthony's body was like completely, you know, like he was slaughtered. And it's like at that moment something just kind of snaps in you, and you just realize like there's no going back to like the normal life that you live. Like you've now, something kind of is in you where you just like, you have a fuel to fight, and you just have a fuel to like get to the bottom of what happened. And like you just, I don't know, like it's hard to explain. It was just like at that moment, like my sister said, like you don't feel like, I don't feel like I'm the person now that I was, you know, going on 3 years. Like I genuinely feel like I'm a whole different person. And when I say that, I'm not sure if I say it in a good way, you know, or a bad way. But, you know, with it, I think comes like, just like our persistent want for, you know, some type of justice and change, you know, because like even saying justice, like we'll never get Anthony back. Like we'll never get Anthony back. And as much as we want these deputies fired, like we know the way the system is worked, you know, we know the way the system works, and we know that it's not built to protect us or to protect Anthony. So like all we know is that we had to get up and fight. Like we had to get up and keep fighting, and we had to figure out, you know, where to show up to fight. We had to figure out where to call in to get our voices heard, and to make sure that like Anthony's name gets out there, and to push the narrative of who my nephew was, and not the narrative of who the media perceived him to be. You know, because the media, they like completely criminalized Anthony. You know, and we expected nothing less from them, honestly. You know, like they completely slandered my nephew's name, and it's just like
even the sheriff's department, like they changed their statements like 3 different times on what had happened on August 12th. You know, and we just keep pushing back. That's all we know. That's all we could do, just keep fucking pushing back. You know, like it's important for families to speak up, and I know how hard it is, you know, but you can't fucking let them win, because they've already permanently removed like one, like, you know, they already permanently removed your loved one. And, you know, like like for us, you know, with our family, like it didn't just stop there. Like it didn't just stop there. Them permanently removing Anthony didn't just stop there. Like the terror, the brutality didn't just stop there, but it transpired into like them harassing us, thinking that they could intimidate us to, like, you know, stay quiet. And you know, my mom, you know, she was a single parent. She raised us, you know, to be really tough, and we're not fucking going anywhere.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing that. I gotta say about your family, I always love that. Yeah, I am unmuted. I just love seeing you guys just together and pushing together. I think that's great. A lot of families, there's so much that comes with it. The families understand, but besides losing our loved one, it causes issues within the families too. You know, we're not the same. We are all facing it and dealing with it. However, we are in different ways too. So I know a lot of families clash. My family has had its clashes that were due to the and all of us dealing with it in our own way. But I just seeing you guys go out together, and I see you guys supporting other families, being there for newly impacted families, showing up to their actions. So, and I think that's dope. Dope. And it's important. Also, getting the narrative. I think Anthony's story, you guys have done a great job too, staying persistent, sharing who he is, because even like I already know about him, about how he before us talking about him loving fishing, him being close to his grandmother. You know, he was young, 21. I already know this stuff, just following you guys, and it's important that we see this. To me, I'm in my 30s. I think of him as a kid still. You know, I have my sister is just a little younger than him, and that's my kid sister. And I think it's important for people to see, hey, this isn't just some, you know, it's not just some nobody, it's somebody. And we don't know if they're going to arrest any of these officers that killed our loved ones. We don't have control of that. So we feel stuck, but I'm glad you guys are keeping his name alive. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. We might see change. You know, obviously all of us, I know everybody else that's been on this show, people watching, like we're not going anywhere. So we're going to be here. We're going to still be fighting. But so with Anthony's third year, are you guys planning on doing anything? Is it up in the air still?
Yeah, it's just, this past year, like a lot of things changed. We normally have a protest for Anthony in front of the sheriff's station, and a lot has changed this year where like I don't even know if I should be sad or if I should stay fucking like pissed. And like we were just at it's still up in the air.
Yeah, because I think like every anniversary like we have for him, like we try to grieve in the process of it, but there's so much anger that's associated with it that like at the end of the day you're so fucking mad, and you just want to yell at like any deputy you see, and just it's hard, because it'll also be Anthony's birthday, 3 weeks before his third anniversary.
Yeah.
So like that's also something difficult because like my family were really big on birthdays. Like we're really big on birthdays, and it's hard because like I said, we celebrate Anthony's twins birthday, and where you're trying to celebrate like his happiness, like it's just you're overcome with the grief.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah, and he does things differently. Some, want to be out there shouting the name. Some do it privately, and then some we don't know what the hell we want to do. Or
Yeah,
that's us.
That's how it feels. Yeah, like like I don't know, like honoring his memory this year of like maybe going fishing sounds great, sounds really good, but also like just knowing the things about Anthony and what happened to him. There's just a new fuel of anger.
yeah.
So that there's no in between.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Do you guys want to talk more about the officers, share the names? When did you guys even find out, like how long did it take for you guys to find out who the killers were and stuff?
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah. We actually got the names of the officers from the attorney. And when Jackie Lacey's bullshit DA report came out, she listed the badge numbers, next to the officer's name. So like we had always talked, and we had always said that like our main fucking goal now is to get, match a name and a badge number with the face. And we were at a 7-Eleven one day, and we were just there randomly buying stuff. It was actually a 7-Eleven that's next to where my nephew was killed.
Yeah, we were going to his memorial site to leave some flowers that day.
And there was deputies inside of the 7-Eleven. So, we're very confrontational. Like we're very confrontational. And we went in there, we did our thing. We came out, the deputies were congregating on the outside. And we just, looked at the nameplate, looked at the badge number, and it like, was Nikolis Perez live in the flesh.
Wow. So that was just you two ladies when that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was also another incident where it was the 2020
George Floyd
solidarity protest for George Floyd that happened here in East L.A. And we were marching, and we went to the station, to the sheriff's station. And, they were right here in riot gear, and there was a deputy there who was in his helmet gear, and then there was this like really smaller, short shit deputy next to his right. And one deputy had like Perez, and the other deputy had Rojas. And we didn't know it at the time because we were in the moment of like just like fucking yelling. But when I go to these actions that are at the sheriff's stations, I am very fucking vigilant taking photographs of deputies, because I'm gonna tell you, like, you never know when you're gonna need them later. And we get harassed so much where like I want to be able to say, hey Steph, look, I have a photo of this deputy from the last time we went to like the market. So I was looking at a bunch of the photos, and I came across this one photo, and that's when we had seen their name badge. And the officers who had killed Anthony, Nikolis, Perez, and Jonathan Rojas, you know, they were standing side by side.
My
And
good.
Marissa, I had like a whole row of these officers just like laughing and like just, you know, and that's when we discovered that they were still employed. You know, they were, I mean, you know, they were still working in our neighborhood. We didn't know where they were at. We didn't know if they had got removed. We were so naive at this time because, you know, we thought like, I don't know, maybe, you know, like they were on like leave. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we found out. Also, you know, like we have photos of them together. They were still working together.
Wow. Expect that to be the response. That is crazy. Makes me want to point out a couple of things. One, you guys have obviously been being harassed. Your nephew was murdered, but they're over here. I want to highlight this to everybody, especially if the cops and stuff want to watch, like literally harassing like women who are, you guys are grieving women. You guys got, you know, your phone, they're badged up. I mean, they're armored up. They got their weapons. And yeah, so for all the times they harass families, I like to point that out because a lot of us are mothers too. A lot of us are mothers with our kids with us often. So they're oftentimes harassing mothers, women, children. And it's just crazy. And it pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah, and it seems like the more we started doing our own investigating, you know, and started finding stuff out on our own, it seems like if that's when the harassment really took flight.
Yeah.
Like once we started doing our own homework and like really started reading up on like all these other incidents and started just, you know, looking into like other you know, officer involved shootings that happened out of East L.A. and we just started seeing like the inconsistencies and we started bringing awareness to it. And like the pattern, like the path, it seems like we really started seeing like the harassment a lot more.
So the more you put yourself out there, the more you speak, the more you involve yourself, the more they're popping up, the more they're doing little drop-bys, the more they're doing their shit. And that's typically how it works.
Exactly.
Gosh. So I do have a friend on here who I believe, I didn't see I seen it a little earlier. I believe Roberto, if he's on here, Rodriguez, he over 30 years ago was assaulted in the same area by the PD. So he's a longtime survivor and he's a professor. He's done a lot of work over the years. But yeah, he just mentioned he wanted to get in touch with you guys, that he did go to court and won against that department twice. So it's been a lot of years, but I'll connect you guys. Very, very good friend of mine we connected some way along the years. But yeah, I wanted to mention that survivor and just also people watching this, survivors. I want to remind the families too about us uplifting survivors. I often think about the survivors and like, look at how many of us are out here fighting, but I don't know about you guys, but I've met a lot of people over the years, especially since Michael was killed, that have admitted to me about their interactions with police and being so many people, huh?
Yeah, I actually had an encounter while I was buying couches for my mom in a furniture store. And this individual, he was an older man. He's an older man now. And he was telling me that he's had it's because I wear Anthony's pin with me, like everywhere I go. And he's seen it and he was asking me like, you know, questions about it. And he started telling me that when he was, you know, in his teenage years, that the East L.A. Sheriff's Department would drive him in the back of his car and would throw him off in like rival, you know, territories and would yell on the bullhorns that, oh, there's a rival member here, come and get him. And he said that was an incident where he was left handcuffed.
Oh my
And
God.
he was left there, and he said that he never, fought it in court because his family was getting heavily intimidated and harassed. And he said that he had a younger daughter at the time, and like he feared for her safety, so he never pursued it. But it's like you said, like you hear stories from survivors, and it's
Yeah.
just like your drive to even keep going further.
Yeah. 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 That reminds me, and other families have told me, like, when they wear stuff, and me too, just wearing stuff, we get more conversation starters. There are a lot of people out there that at the end of the day, they won't like the police, or they don't like the police if they know the truth, or the extent of how this really goes. A lot of survivors, I think, from the ones that at least I've spoken to, that don't speak out, that have never really told anybody, they're either ashamed, scared of retaliation, embarrassed, just scared to speak out. Some people have that told me, have like said that they never have told anybody else. So there's just so many of us out there. And then so what are you guys doing, like, these this year? What has been going on just in so far with finding more things out? I know you guys last year you started getting the more details? Barely, right?
Yes.
So this year, what's it looking like so far? I know you guys have the civil case, but that's still litigation. Nothing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, what else is on the radar? And with you guys, with you ladies too, with your work individually, because you guys are also strong individuals, aside from this.
Yeah, it's been a lot, like finding out like little details about, like the officers, and like how they have misconducts on them, and because that fucking Brady list is so protected, like it's not out there. And like we found out that the deputy that murdered my nephew was involved in another shooting of another individual, in the same way that Anthony was killed. Like George Serrano, he was on his knees with his hands up, he was shot in the back. Like it's just like there's too many similarities. And like you can't help but wonder, like, if Nikolis Perez had been disciplined for murdering my nephew, like George Serrano's family wouldn't be facing what we're facing, because he'd still be here. And it's hard, like we just kind of we fight, my comfort comes from being out there, like, active, like I don't grieve. I don't know if like that sounds like, I don't know how that sounds, but like it's very hard for me to grieve, because I feel like my grief, I do it through like activism. I do it through, yelling at the cops. I do it through letting them know that, like, we know what they're up to, and like we're not afraid of them. And
Yeah.
it's a lot, it's a lot. And I just feel like we belong in the streets, like we belong out here fighting, and we belong out here, getting justice for Anthony, and just making sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else, because like I said, we know that the deputies they're not going to get charged. And if they do, like, it's a rare occurrence, and it's just making sure that some kind of change is created, like if it's something as simple as getting the East LA Sheriff's Department, like, abolished, the way that the Bow PD ended up abolished, like it's small stuff like that I feel like we hold on to hope, we're holding on to a lot of hope. And we just, I don't know.
No, that's good. That's good. I think a lot of families relate to not grieving, just going, we're not just like learning about our loved one's case. We're retaining a lot of information just about even the history of this stuff and other cases, and just so much law.
Yeah,
So,
and then like I have a 15-year-old son, and just like I have a lot of nephews, and I have like, it's stressful, like it's fucking stressful, because like I'm trying to teach the kids, like, not to grow up afraid of them. But at the same time, like, I'm sitting here fucking terrified when they leave the house to go to the corner store. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's hard to like help them process their grief as well, because like they grieve differently than we do. Like I'm capable of, decompressing when I need to and kind of finding my quiet place to just, take it down. But with the kids, like, they process it differently, and they don't understand things the way that we do. And you can't explain things to them like blatantly either,
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And then like my own son, he was getting harassed by the school police because he would defend his friends, they would be getting harassed, and he would defend them and tell them like, hey, like, you guys can't search his backpack, or, like, you guys can't, he would let them know. And he started facing harassment from the school police, and
Gosh.
it's a lot, it's a lot for us to process our grief, and then to kind of figure out like how to help the kids process their grief and just not be afraid. But like I said, it's like, I feel like I'm contradicting myself, because like, I'm terrified when my son leaves the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point, that's after everything you guys have been through, you guys have extra, targets and everything. But I think everybody at this point with family and loved ones should be concerned about this issue of how much it's happening. Everybody should feel that way. I know with me having 3 sons, and they're small still, they're not going nowhere without me. But just because of all of this, feeling traumatized, everything that's happened, like earlier, I was thinking about it, and just really thinking about it was making me feel uncomfortable and scared for my kids when I got years to go. But it's real. The reality.
Yeah.
And so, and then just about telling the kids too, it's really hard doing this with the kids. Like, how do you tell the kids, the bad guy was the police officer that killed Anthony, they know him. He wasn't the bad guy. So, but then the bad guy didn't get in trouble,
Exactly.
It's the world we're living in right now, our country.
Another problem with the kids is like, they've had to bear witness to, like, they would be playing outside in front of our house. And we have kids. It feels like we have 100 kids here, but like the kids range from like 17 to like 12.
Yeah.
And even when it had first started, when Anthony had got murdered, they would be playing outside. And they would see these deputies pass by, and they would roll down their windows. They would wave to the kids. They would try to like look like, they were here, like they were the good guys. And my niece, she's gone out, and she's been a voice for my nephew, for Anthony. She's like traumatized of the police. She can't be around an officer, and she like, just even the kids around here, like, it's hard to try to like manage, or try to help them with their trauma when you're trying to process your own trauma. It's like, I get scared for my nephew, for her son, when he goes out, because he's gonna be turning 21, and like, he's a lot like Anthony, where he's a homebody. So like, there's this fear of like, I don't want him to, it shouldn't be that way. Like, we shouldn't have to try to protect our kids so much, where to the point where, we have to keep them inside. Like, we're not the fucking problem. These fucking people who walk around with the badge and with the gun, like, they're the fucking problem. And I don't think like a lot of people, and when I say people, I mean like elected officials, they're always so quick to like make you feel like you're the one who could keep doing more, keep taking pictures, keep documenting. And it's not fucking fair. It's not a way to live life. Like, we're not the ones walking around with the fucking pistol on our sides.
Yeah. And as you're speaking right now, Val, and we're expressing our fear for the kids, and their future as the young men, and their safety, their lives. And then like, wait, but we're talking about guys from the police, like our fucking police.
Yeah.
That's just the crazy part. This is about the police, that we're in fear for our children. I'm over here in fear, and I got really like emotional thinking about it earlier, just looking at my two babies laying next to each other. I have my Michael, who's almost 2, and then my newborn. And I'm like, I haven't had to worry about that in the future. Like that
Yeah.
potentially having 3 sons, they can be, it's, and is that just from being an impacted family member? Even if I wasn't an impacted family member, but I knew this,
Yeah.
I would still be terrified. So everybody really should, and we know that as we know all these different families. So we know that. I want the people to know that before it hits them.
But that's the thing too, is like, it shouldn't be normal. Like it's, like I know for me, like I don't have kids, and I don't want to have kids because I feel like, I'm having like a difficult time like being there for the nieces and like my nieces and my nephews. Like if I have kids, they're gonna be raised as like abolitionists, and it's gonna be fucking wild. I could tell you that. But it shouldn't be normalized where we're walking around in fear and having to feel like we have to have our phones on. It shouldn't be normalized that we have to tell people to film the fucking police. Like it's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
It really is. And then one thing I caught myself saying again yesterday is like the police, okay, people try to make excuse, well, don't run, don't do this,
Yeah.
don't. But it's like, even if they do, even let's say they are a criminal that the police need to arrest, the police shouldn't have to turn into a criminal themselves in order to arrest a fucking criminal. Why are you doing that? And then we know that they're doing all these things unwarranted. You guys, when you the narratives released on Anthony, you guys know that he wasn't gonna have that gun, that he wasn't, you guys know that. You guys are the ones that knew him every day his whole freaking life, so it's just crazy how they can get away with doing this. A lot of things shared to your story are unique, your family story, but a lot of them, are the certain, okay, well, every story killed by police. Okay, well, we can't forget the false narrative. We can't forget that what they did to the body. We can't forget how they, we all have those different components to it. And it's really sick. It's so sick. You guys got so many comments in here. I encourage, I wouldn't even say to personally, I don't look at the comments the same night just because it's a lot emotionally. So I always tell the families, when you have time, space to read the comments, got a lot of people in there. Some people are asking questions, and just others just support. A lot of them are families. Some of them are families that I don't even recognize right now. So families out there, I know you guys relate to us. We're all in this together. Every time I speak, and I know this family as well as most of the other families, if not all, when we speak, we share about the other victims too, not just our loved ones. We're in this together. That's how we're gonna get moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies, is there anything else that you guys would like to share about Anthony or your family? Anything coming up? Any last words before we close up tonight?
No, just want to thank you, Marissa, for holding space for us, and for holding space for all the families. We tune in every week, and it's heartbreaking, week after week, and it's heartbreaking to also hear like all the similarities and like just like it's just every family that's been impacted, everyone's going through the same thing, and having this space, like you have people to talk to that you can relate to, because a lot of times people will tell you to be forgiving, and but with this space, with this big family that we're now a part of, like we don't feel that, because everyone wants the same thing. Like we're all fucking against the cops and against the system, and like there's no forgiveness. Like there's no forgiveness. And just thank you to everyone that's watching, all the impacted families. Well, we're here for everyone. Any way that we can help you guys out, or a phone call, a text message, or anything we can do to help, we're always here. And let's just keep working together to find a way to, you know, dismantle this system and let them know that, like, together, all of us, like, we're capable of taking it down. You know, strong communities definitely can show the cops that, like, we're way bigger, you
Yes,
know?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Getting lots of love too. I see the hearts from right here going up. So lots of love from the families and people watching. And so after we do these, I do upload these to YouTube. So if you guys have anybody who would like to watch on YouTube or doesn't have Facebook you want to share this with, I'll provide you ladies the link.
Okay.
Everybody watching, we have all the previous episodes on our Voice of Strength page right here on our page, but we also have it on YouTube for convenience of watching there. And for any impacted families who would like help to share their story, feel free to reach out. That's what I'm doing here with Voice of Strength, the project of our series going on throughout 2021, throughout the year. I started late last year and getting families on here each week. So we will have this documented recordings, live recordings of our families' testimonies. So thank you, Stephanie and Val, for being part of this and sharing Anthony's story and staying persistent in the fight. And yeah, I know next time I'm in the area, I want to definitely meet you ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys ever come out this way to Sacramento,
Yeah.
definitely would love to meet. Hopefully we could get something with the families. I've been talking to a couple families about this, but want to definitely get something planned in the next year, at least on the calendar, to bring some families together. And not just for like, I don't, in my mind, it's not for a protest or anything like that. It's for families together, us to eat together, talk, family stuff, you know, that
Yeah,
fun.
that'll be
Let's
nice.
do it, Marissa.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Do it. I'm definitely down. And I had this idea since before COVID, and then I was like, oh man, and then time just keeps going by. Now I'm like, you know what? We need to plan it. And so yeah, I would definitely talk to you guys outside of this and any families too. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for spending time with me tonight. And I'll see you guys on Facebook and on IG.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
guys.
Marissa. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody. And thank you, everybody who watched with us tonight.